Hi, everyone. So my name is Yui Lei. I'm an attorney at Cambridge Immigration Law.
And what kind of law do you work in?
Sure. So we do immigration law, so both family-based and employment-based.
So
Yeah.
tell me about what is an H-1B visa?
Yeah, so an H-1B is this very special type of visa. It's called specialty occupation, right? So really what that means is that you have a US employer who is sponsoring you to come to the US to do a role that requires at least a bachelor's degree or related to do, and that you have the skill and you have the background of at least a bachelor's degree related to do that job.
Is it important to have a STEM degree to get an H-1B visa from outside the US?
So it doesn't have to be STEM related. So for example, you can get an H1B for non-STEM related positions, right? But whatever that role is, so let's say your role is STEM. Let's say you're coming in to be a software engineer. Your employer has to say they want to hire you as a software engineer. This is a position that requires at least a bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering, and then they have to show that you as an individual have at least a bachelor of science of computers engineering or related field.
So why did Donald Trump change these rules?
Yeah, because for the H-1B, in addition to being a specialty occupation, which I just explained what it is, the H-1B also requires that you be paid a certain amount, right? So for an H-1B, you have to be paid, at least a prevailing wage, which is the wage for every occupation in the U.S. You can look at the Department of Labor's website, and it'll list a wage of 1 through 4. So for example, if I look up, software engineer for Middlesex County, it would show what that occupation and what the salary levels are. What President Trump and his administration, really the basis behind all of this is the fear that employers are hiring H-1B workers and paying them less money than what they would be paying US workers. So they want to make it harder for employers to hire H-1B workers, which, if you're looking at the data, it's actually not true, because the employer who wants to sponsor for H-1B, it's actually a very complicated process. You have to enter a lottery for them to even be selected from the H-1B. There's attorney fees that's involved. There's government filing fees that's involved. And they by law, have to pay at least a prevailing wage for that job. So most employers are complying with these policies. Employers aren't hiring software engineers and paying them, $40,000 when they're paying their other workers more. A lot of employers are actually paying, market rate, or if not more, for the H-1B workers. But to answer your question in a short way, the current Trump administration, and President Trump is trying to do these policies out of the fear that employers are undercutting American workers by hiring H-1B workers.
Don't you think this fear is true? I mean, it's based on
Yeah.
reality.
So personally, as an attorney, and I've been practicing this immigration law for about 12 years now, based on the facts, it's not true, right? Because as I mentioned before, the process of employing an H-1B worker is not easy. It's not like employers are just going out on the street and hiring a person and saying, hey, I want to hire you because I can pay you a lot less than I will pay a U.S. worker. They have to put them into unless it's a cap exempt employer, most employers have to enter the lottery for that worker. There's about a 30 something percent selection rate right now from the lottery, right? And then after that, that's to pay government fees, attorney fees. Then again, what I mentioned about the wage levels and the prevailing wage. So no, the majority of employers are not undercutting U.S. workers by having H-1B. And honestly, if H-1B, the H-1B process is not easy to get, right? Employers, when they're hiring these foreign workers, is because they have a gap in their workforce for a specific talent that they actually need to hire these qualified professionals to do.
You said only 30 to 40% of H-1Bs come from the lottery.
Correct. So every year, there's a certain number. So it's that's available. So there's a lottery every year, and out of that, statistically, there's about a 30 something percent chance of selection from the lottery. So employers sometimes they're putting people's names into the lottery, knowing that there's really a 1 in 3 chance of them even being selected.
So
Right.
where does the rest of the 70% come from?
So I'm sorry. So the selection from the lottery is about 30 something percent. So there's when you get entered to the lottery, there's about 2/3 percent that you won't get selected. So if you're not selected, then your employer has to work with you to figure out alternative strategy. Hey, or do you qualify for something else, an O1 Alien of Extraordinary Ability visa? For large employers, for example, if they're not selected from the lottery, they may say, we'll transfer you to Canada and you can work at a subsidiary for a year, then we'll bring you back here on an L. A lot of smaller employers don't have that option. It's not like they have subsidiaries all around the world where they can transfer their worker. So that's why the H-1B program is so important for all types of employers, not just the large tech companies, right? A lot of mid-sized and small companies have been using the H-1B program and following all the compliant rules.
How do you think it's going to affect the F1 students here in the US?
It's going to be very detrimental to F1 students in the US because really, especially for someone, a recent graduate, right? So you just graduate, you're getting an entry-level job. The company's willing to sponsor you for an entry-level software engineering role. But now, especially for smaller companies who now says, yes, in order to hire this new H-1B worker, you also have to pay $100,000 for them. Maybe the Microsoft and the Amazons of the world may be able to absorb that cost. But for startups and small businesses and even mid-sized companies, they may be a lot more hesitant to hire new graduates with this additional charge, because this charge is not this is not $100,000 per employer. It's per H-1B worker that they file for.
So it's a policy inconsistency, right? For example, when I came to the US as a student, I was hoping that I'm gonna get into the job market, I'm gonna get an H-1B visa, and I had planned everything according to that, right? But now everything has overnight shifted for me.
Yeah.
So
so right now, there's a lot of unknowns right now, right? So that when this came out, when the $100,000 fee came out, it created a lot of panic because the way the presidential proclamation was written, there was just a lot of unclear language. So me as an immigration attorney and with a lot of other immigration attorneys, we were just scratching our head trying to figure out what it actually was saying, and we've received some confirmation since, but not all. Really, what it's saying is, if you're filing a new H-1B petition after the effective day of September 21, there's just a $100,000 charge per H-1B. Again, the administration has not disclosed how to pay that charge. We don't know how are we paying this $100,000. But they have also clarified that this fee is only for new H-1B petitions filed after the effective date.
True.
So anyone that has already have a case filed before that date, even if it's pending, is not impacted, right? So people here already in the U.S. on H-1Bs, current H-1Bs or pending H-1Bs are not impacted to this fee. And they also clarify that H-1B extensions are not impacted. So if someone's already here in H-1B and then now they have to go, because H-1B is valid for 3 years, now they have to file the extension for their company, they won't have to pay that $100 fee. But the government has not clarified. It's still unclear now what it means for change of employers, amendments, right? Because those are not extensions. They're different forms. They're the same form, but a different box you check on the form. So really, we're still left in the dark of what that means. If someone changed their employer or have to amend their H-1B, do they have to pay does the employer have to pay the $100,000? Most likely not, but again, it's unclear right now.
Me as an international student, for example, when I'm gonna enter the job market, and if I ask my company to sponsor my H-1B, they'll have to pay the $100,000.
Yes, because you haven't, according to, there's probably going to be a lot of lawsuits that will arise from this, challenges from companies against the administration on what this means. But as stated right now, yes, any new H-1B filed after the effective day of September 21 will be subject to this $100,000. Again, but we still don't know how to pay this $100,000. There's no guidance
So
yet.
F1 students currently in the United States who are gonna file new petitions are gonna have to face this fee.
Yes, unless there's litigation and the courts strike this down.
Do you think it's gonna be struck down by the courts?
I don't know, so I think there's definitely going to be a lot of litigation on this
Yeah.
because it's not just 100,000. There's also the proposal of weighted H1B lottery right now. So in the past, as I mentioned, the lottery. So every year, employers who want to hire a worker kind of put their name into this lottery. And again, the selection rate is around 30 something percent of being selected from that lottery. And it was kind of a democracy, right? Put your name on it and you have as good as a chance as anyone else in the lottery. What the Trump administration is also proposing recently, and this came out just a few days ago, and this impacts you as a student, is that they want to do a weighted system where, as I mentioned before, that prevailing wage, level 1 to level 4, where now they'll say if you're level 4 wage, if you're getting paid the highest wage, you'll get 4 chances in the lottery. If you are level 3, 3 chances, level 2, 2 chances, level 1, 1 chance. So, you know, if that's effective, what does that mean? Well, that means F1 students who typically are going to be entry level positions, who are going to get the level 1 wage,
Yeah.
are going to be significantly impacted in the lottery for this. You'll have 1 chance of selection instead of someone else having 4 chances, right? Especially, maybe the Microsofts and the Amazons and the big techs of the world will then just pay the employees more, so the employees are getting paid level 3, level 4
Yeah.
salaries.
Yeah.
But the startups, the small companies, are not going to be able to keep up. So if all this passes, and again, everything is in a proposal stage, if this actually happens, what that means is this is going to be very detrimental to F1 students. It's going to be very detrimental to small small companies and startups who just cannot pay those wages.
For example, I'm an F1 student. I came here. I have certain liabilities,
Mm-hmm.
on me, and because of this change of status and because of these of change of policy, I have to go back.
Yeah.
So, what about those liabilities that I might be having?
Yeah, so I think right now for F1 students, I think depending on what your field is, it's the chance for you to really talk to an immigration attorney, like us, Cambridge Immigration, to really explore what other alternative options there are. Right now, because of this pushback on the H1B, making H1B harder, this $100,000, this proposal for just this weighted lottery system, we're seeing a lot more interest in alternative visa categories, right?
What alternatives, for example, do we have?
So, and again, this won't, not everyone will qualify, but if you are, this is something definitely to think about. For example, O1 alien of extraordinary ability. That sounds really scary because it sounds like, oh my gosh, O1 alien of extraordinary ability, you have to be really amazing. But really, we've been able to do very successful O1 cases for people who say, hey, listen, I have, I work in whatever field it is, AI,
Yeah.
and this is what I want to do in the US, and I have publications, citations, peer review, etc. So a lot of some students, especially students doing their PhD programs who have publications and citations, etc., may actually qualify for an O1. Um, and the O1 is great because there's no wage requirement, right? So not like the H1B, but you have to pay the prevailing wage, and also the O1, there's no lottery selection. So if you're eligible for it or think you're eligible for it, definitely talk to an attorney to assess your eligibility. And we're also seeing from the green card process just a lot more interest in, for example, EB2 national interest waiver petitions and EB1 extraordinary ability petitions.
What are the basis of EB to national waiver and national interest?
Sure. So the EB2 national interest waiver is an immigrant petition, right? So unlike an H1B and an O1, which are non-immigrant, it allows you to work here on a temporary basis. The EB2 and IW is an immigrant petition that then allows you to eventually apply for a green card, right? And the benefit of the EB2 is essentially saying, hey, you want to come to the US to do this thing, and this thing is in the national interest of the US. Hey, I want to come here, I want to be a brain surgeon. This will benefit the US because there's a lot of people having brain cancer, and I have research to show that. And I'm well qualified to do this work because I have publications, citations, peer review, whatever. It doesn't have to rise to a level of brain surgeon. We do a lot of EB2 NIWs, but for example, AI is very hot right now. The US government has said that they believe AI is in the national interest of the US, especially because we want to be competitive to other world leaders, right? So definitely we're seeing more interest from F1 students, particularly people who who are doing their master's or PhD level, who have some type of research and publications, etc. Look into EB2 NIWs, look into EB1s.
What is EB1?
So EB1 is also an immigrant petition.
Okay.
It's for aliens of extraordinary ability. So it's not that you're here doing something in the national interest, whether EB2 is. EB1 is saying that you are basically the top of your field, and that's why you should be able to self-petition. So that's the benefit of an EB1 extraordinary ability and EB2 national interest waiver. Both of those, this is actually very helpful for F1 student because you actually don't need an employer, right?
For EB1.
Or and EB2 and IW, you can self-petition for them.
Okay.
Which nowadays, under this immigration landscape, employers, especially smaller employers, may be more hesitant to sponsor. So we're seeing a lot of interest in these categories for students.
Do you think that because of this H1B, the market is gonna get more very competitive, especially even for students who are applying for STEM OPT extensions?
So no, I think for STEM OPT, I don't think that will be impacted by this, but I think the future outlook of what happens after your STEM OPTs, because the STEM is just 24 extra months, right?
Yeah.
What happens after that? So I think there's going to be a lot of students who unfortunately will run out of options in the U.S. and unless they qualify for something else, it's not an H1B. They may have to look at global options. And I think a lot of companies are moving that way as well. So, I practice US immigration law, but more and more I'm seeing a demand for global mobility expertise of how do I get work authorization in Europe, for example.
Yeah. Last question, what kind of special services do you offer for students here at Cambridge Immigration Law?
Yeah, so I think Cambridge Immigration Law, we provide very hands-on service. So customer service is our number one thing that we want to focus on. So definitely, if you're an F1 student, if you're worried about your status, your work authorization, your future planning of what all the options you may be eligible for, if you have travel questions, etc., please book a consultation with us, and we're more than happy to talk to you about your individual case. Every case is different. You may qualify for something another student may not qualify for. For example, we work with a lot of F1 students who are trying to be startup founders, right? So there's options for those individuals as well. Book a time with us. We can assess your case and then work with you directly to make sure that you have a path after your program ends.
Thank you for talking to me.
No problem. Yeah.